or from people you admire, whether it's in literature or on the television set. So can we start to create these role models? Can we start to create these types of peer interactions that that kind of teach these types of new civic virtues for economic purposes?
In fact, I think there in the Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat can really play a very big role, because we have the organization is headed by the Education Department, the Minister, and the Vice Chancellor, the Honorable Vice Chancellors of the various universities and other academic institutions. So if you're looking at Ahmedabad and Gujarat in particular, I mean particularly Ahmedabad, the capital is, we are strong on the capital side, reasonably strong. And on the entrepreneur skills, I think it's really a very good history, as you've already mentioned. And as far as education system is concerned, the potential is immense. But I mean, this thought of blending these three things to create that kind of an ecosystem is probably something which is really wonderful, something very unique that both of you have brought in for discussion today. So would you think that probably in the education system, when you said particularly, Dr. Ade, you were talking about understanding the individual, we also have very fairly strong cultural and a spiritual background in this country, as you're all aware. So do you think a little bit of an orientation to the traditional value systems can be brought into the education system in a way, or do you think a lot of knowledge exchange with other countries and other cultures will be a better idea? What is your take on that?
I think we need both.
Right.
And I once met a very, I'll call him, he's one of these people with very, very clear thoughts. And he explained that in the West, we have been able to explore geography, the external world. And he said in India, we have several years of exploring the inner world, and that we need to combine both. And in fact, some of what we've been looking at Stanford in the School of Engineering is looking at the emotion of engineers. Because the emotion, fear, shame and all those regulate knowledge. So both the external world and the internal world have to work together. And in this age where we have the internet, knowledge is widely accessible. And so what we begin to talk about, how do you cultivate trust, which is between humans? How do you overcome fear? How do you work with other people becomes a premium. In the past, when we didn't have the internet, it seemed like knowledge was a premium. But now that's widely available. Trust building, culture building is what is the rare access. So I think the education system needs to really work on how to make diverse people come together and bring their different knowledge. Because as humans, people that are not like us, we tend to move away from them. And one of the things that we saw in the Silicon Valley is something happened that allowed humans to start working with strangers. And that will be very, very important in the education system to bring about.
I think to add to this, I think so much of the education system today, definitely in the United States, is geared towards the old model of building farms, right? Which is about giving people skills and the culture for fine calibration and control, right? Which is why we grill children in mathematics and science to the point where they're almost in tears, because it's about that model of economic production, which is still very important. But at the same time, there's been a neglect of the other stuff. And the other stuff we find now, when you look at places like Silicon Valley, is very, very important. And so teaching people how to work with people outside of their own schools, to work with students from other schools. I tend to be optimistic generally, and if you look at young people today, they, with the internet tools they have, they're interacting with the world in a way that people have never been able to do. And I think
social networking.
Yeah, you can see a new way of thinking emerging from the younger generation, which goes beyond traditional boundaries of social networks. You don't just hang out with the people that you're closest to. You're willing to be open-minded to others, and so somehow the education system needs to nurture this and encourage it rather than try to stifle it.
Very true. I think you've all been touching on very good points, and right now what is happening is in the state we are undergoing a transformation in the education system, and we're working towards holistic development of the students. And we're not talking of only IQ. We're definitely talking in terms of IQ, EQ, and spiritual quotient as well. So all of these things together, I think the whole discussion today has taken us towards some kind of a thought process which brings us closer as a world, as a ecosystem. And we're also at the same time talking of something which is practical, because deep down there is economics also that we're talking about. You're talking about a very successful example that is in the Silicon Valley. So we are not talking about some kind of a small model. And you're also mentioning the possibility of accepting failures, which is very important. And the point that you mentioned about err, fail and persist, I think really makes a very, it makes a lot of sense. And any student who's been watching this, all of our students who've been watching this today, I think this must be giving them a lot of encouragement and also giving them a lot of freedom to think innovatively, think fearlessly, and also think in terms of starting up new things, new ideas, basically nurturing their own potential. And I think anybody who is watching this, even the teachers who are watching this, every one of them must understand that the idea of being open, breaking rules, dreaming, all of it is at the very center point of this entire discussion. And for people like you who've traveled the length and breadth of this whole world, the whole globe, to talk about this, I think it really makes a lot of sense. The fact that you've chosen Gujarat, the fact that you've chosen Ahmedabad as a possible destination to create a Silicon Valley is something we are feeling very proud about. And I must also mention that at this point, on behalf of the Education Department, on behalf of the Knowledge Consortium of Gujarat, I extend my deepest sense of gratitude for all the thoughts that you've shared. You both have a very sound background. You've come from a very successful background, and bringing these thoughts to us, encouraging our students on these to think on those lines, all of it is a wonderful experience. And we will also look forward to having opportunities to have you back on studio with us. I hope you'll visit India more often. I hope you'll be a part of this part of the world, and I hope we can share a lot more knowledge. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this experience of coming and sharing our thoughts.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.